Guys, everybody's big concern when they're purchasing a home is, oh my gosh, what am I going to get myself into? And then later regret. Today, Lizette and I are going to give you the biggest regrets that we've heard from some of our past clients.
You better get fired up.
I don't know if you can tell, but I got a little bit of an issue going on with my voice. I think it's going around. Yeah, we were talking about this earlier, but bear with me. I feel fine. I look, well, as good as I normally look. It's just the voice, right? But bear with me and we'll get through some of the biggest regrets that our clients have had after buying. Lizette, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Joe. I'm not sick yet, thank God.
Yeah,
So let's keep it that way.
you're the one. Yeah. Well, hopefully you don't get it. We'll try to keep you
Mhm.
safe. But
Yeah.
today we're going to talk about regrets. We've had a lot of buyers. I don't know how many of my closings have been buyers, but I know we've done over 600 transactions before. I would guess maybe 250 to 300 have been buyers. And you do hear certain things that people regret. I think just as importantly, there are things that many people would expect to hear as regrets that you don't. So I'd like to share both of those two lists, but I'll kick it off with you first. Let's hear some regrets that you've heard buyers say maybe a week after closing, maybe a year after closing.
I think under the big umbrella of it, the biggest regret sometimes could be location. And
Mm,
then you could filter that down in so many ways. It could be the location. Maybe the neighborhood isn't what they expected. Maybe they just don't want to be in a community and there's too many restrictions on them.
yeah.
The HOA fees is going up, so that affected them. Also, in Port St. Lucie, we're known for people commuting to West Palm, down south for jobs. And maybe if they move too north into Port St. Lucie, those extra 20 minutes really was a deal breaker for them. And they rather be maybe somewhere further down south, like the Becker area. So the location wise, I would say would be on the top of my list.
Yeah, and you brought up a lot of great, subsets of location, right? The specific neighborhood, how close are you to jobs, how close are you to schools, a lot of different things. How close are you to a busy, loud highway, or maybe a busy street if you've got kids, right? Location, I mean, everybody knows that you don't have to be in real estate to know the old saying, location, 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 right? Those are the three most important things in real estate. So definitely consider those different things. Here's another one as a guy who's from Minnesota, right? Anybody I get in the Midwest, they always say the same thing. Oh my gosh, there's no storage in this house, right? You hear it all the time.
Mhm.
And that's a Florida thing. We don't have basements, whereas up in the Midwest, everybody's got a basement. They traditionally leave them unfinished in a lot of cases, and they use it for storage, or that's where the kids play, or whatever. It's kind of a man cave down there. Well, we don't have that here. So here you've got maybe a walk-in closet for him and her, maybe closets in the bedrooms, and maybe one or two hallway closets. And that's about it, right? Some people have sheds, but I would guess it's less than 5% of people that, whose homes I show that actually have sheds. And we try to utilize our garages in any way we can to get that extra storage. So one of the biggest, regrets that I hear, especially from people in the Midwest, is I wish I would have gotten a bigger home. I wish I would have gotten a home with more closets or more storage space. Or I wish I would have gotten a third stall garage, right? That way, that third stall could be used for that golf cart everybody wants or that extra storage or whatever it is. So that's a big one I've gotten. What else have you gotten, Lizette?
So piggybacking off of the storage, I also think size is really important. And as a woman, sometimes, I hear the complaint is the house is too big. There's too much cleaning that needs to be involved. Or maybe the property just has too much maintenance. Maybe the lot is too big. Maybe it requires too much lawn service or landscaping. If they have a pool and maybe they didn't realize the maintenance that involves with having a pool. A lot of that falls under the umbrella of the size of the property. So I hear that quite a bit. It just maybe was too much for them, and specifically some of those older buyers, they want to downsize now because the upkeep is just too much for them.
I like that you brought up pool. That one was not on my list. That's a good one. Sticking with space, I hear a lot of times, I wish we'd gotten one extra bedroom or an extra office or an extra den, some sort of extra room, right? Either to work out of or for guests or whatever it is, right? You had talked about a smaller yard. Sometimes we hear people wanting bigger yards, which here can be a real concern because everything here is an 80 by 125. I mean, that's probably 80, 90% of the lots here in Port St. Lucie. So if you want any real space in your lot, you're talking maybe an acre or more. Not only is it very challenging to find, but it's incredibly expensive unless you're going to get 20, 30, 40 minutes out of town, right? So those are some things that I hear as well. Are there any other things that you want to wrap this up with, Lizette, that you hear as regrets from your buyers?
I think as a growing city in Port St. Lucie, some of the things that we may encounter in the future is just either people have been established here for a very long time and are used to that small town feel, and we're growing and we have new establishments coming along and new communities. And sometimes people regret is I'm just too busy right now for them, and they kind of want that old town feel again. So again, just again with the location,
Location.
community. They're looking for something a little bit more quiet, and now since the city is growing, they're looking for something more on the outskirts of Port St. Lucie.
So I'm going to go in a different direction here, and I'll ask you if you've got a couple after this, Lizette. But I wrote down 5 things that I have not heard from the, I'm guessing, 250 to 300 buyers I've worked with as far as regrets are concerned. And this might surprise you. I've never had anybody call me and say, "Oh, everything we bought is eggshell. I wish it would have been a light blue. Everything is green. I wish it would have been a yellow." I've never heard that. In fact, one of the first things people do, I've got a closing next week, and they're already calling me saying, "Can I get in there with my painter?" They want to paint. It's relatively inexpensive if you do it yourself. And it's something a lot of people want to do. And it's something you can do room by room. So you don't have to get the whole thing done at once. I've never heard anybody regret having to paint their house. Updates. I've never heard anybody say, "Oh my gosh, I wish I would not have bought this home because it's got wallpaper in the bathroom," or "I can't believe that I've got Korean countertops. I should have bought a home with quartz countertops." I've never heard that. What I've heard is, "Joe, guess what? I'm excited to invite you over to our barbecue because we just got new quartz countertops. We got rid of those ugly old, pick the style you don't like of countertops." Okay, cool. Or, "Hey, we just got rid of that wallpaper and we just put up some wainscoting," or whatever it is, "and you're going to love it. We're going to invite you over next weekend." Okay, great. I've never had anybody be upset about that or regret that, right? Appliances. I've heard a lot of people when they're looking say, I can't deal with that kind of appliance. I'm not going to take this kind of appliance, blah, 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 blah. And it'll hold them back sometimes. But after they purchase, not one person has said, "I wish I wouldn't have bought this home because it's got this type of stove or this type of fridge." They just swap them out, right? It's relatively, at least in the realm of a house, relatively inexpensive. And it's exciting to get out there and get yourself a new appliance set. A fence. Some people need fences, right? If you've got pets, if you've got little kids, you're going to need a fence, not want a fence, but need a fence. But a fence is one of those things that, again, a fence can be, $8, $10, $12,000. It's not cheap, but in the realm of a home, it's relatively inexpensive. So that's something that I've never had a client really complain about afterwards. They've either dealt with it and they knew when they bought, or they've built the fence, right? And then the last one is, and this one really is surprising, a new roof. When you get in, and maybe this is because I overeducate people. I don't know if this would be true with everybody, but my buyers know you're either getting a home with a newer roof and you're not going to have a problem for several years, or you're getting into a home that does have an issue roof, right? Even if it's a beautiful condition roof, it's a 19-year-old shingle roof, right? So you're going to have an issue with insurance, even if you don't have an issue with the weather. So you better figure out a plan, whether that plan is, taking out a loan to get that roof taken care of or having cash ready, whatever it is. And maybe it's because we overeducate, but I've never had anybody call me and say, "Oh, I wish we'd bought a home with an older roof. We could have dropped the price a little bit and put the roof on ourselves," or "I wish we would have gotten a newer roof. This, insurance is a hassle." I've never had anybody do that. And I think as long as you're educating people, they can get on board with these things. Now, Lizette, I'm going to ask you for a list of some things that you have not seen people regret. But at the end, I want to point out the difference between these two lists. I see one major difference, and it's probably not 100% true, but I'm willing to bet it's 80, 90% true. And I want you to keep that in mind as buyers when you're going down the road here and you're looking at homes, right? So, Lizette, what are some things that you have seen, maybe expected people to regret after closing, and you haven't really heard much about it?
I think the big one that comes to mind is a conversation I have very often with buyers that are looking for a pool home, but maybe it's not in their budget, but the size of the home is extremely important. Maybe they have to
Yeah,
have that fourth bedroom. They have to have that den.
yeah.
Now that puts them in a certain bracket, but you add that pool, it takes them out of the whole ball game. So what I tell them a lot of times is, hey, let's look at the bigger picture. You can't really add additional rooms to your property because you're stuck on that square footage of your
Mm,
home, but you could always add a pool and
mm,
you could customize it to the way you want it. So that's
exactly.
definitely the one that comes right to the top of my mind,
That's a good
thinking,
one.
hey, you could customize that. Yeah.
So here's the big difference in these two lists, in my opinion. And again, not 100% true, but probably 70, 80, 90% true. And I share this because I want you to remember this as buyers. with all the things people have regretted, they're things that are very challenging or incredibly expensive to change, right? You can't really change your neighborhood. You can't really change your HOA. You can't really change being by a busy street or getting a bigger yard, or what else do we put here? A third garage stall would be challenging in Port St. Lucie to add because, of how wide the lots tend to be. All those things are not very easy, if even possible, to change. All the things that you can change are things that people have never called me and regretted. And again, I think as long as you're with somebody who is educating you along the way and telling you, this is how much this costs, this is how many people have this is how much value this adds, this is how big of a pain in the butt it is to add this, or how easy it is to add this, or whatever it is, as long as you're being inundated with information, I think you're going to make a great decision. And I don't want people, why do we do this video? Because I don't want buyers who are highly analytical and high anxiety to be overly concerned with making a bad decision. I've seen a lot of those buyers out there, and I completely get it. I want you to make a decision based on a list of what you've said you wanted on day one, and then go out and find a home that checks those boxes, or at least most of those boxes. And I'm telling you, if it's something you can purchase down the road, there's things in my house I want to do right now. And even though they're not done, I have a certain sense of purpose, excitement, thrill, knowing that I'm going to eventually get those done, and they're going to be customized to the way I want them. It's exciting. It's going to make it more my house. It's going to feel like I upgraded the house. The value of the house is going to go up. I like that. I don't regret that I bought a home with those weaknesses or those holes in them, right? Not literal holes. But I love my neighborhood. Had I purchased in a cheaper neighborhood just because I wanted to save money, probably wouldn't have been happy. And there's nothing I could have done about it. So guys, get out there, be prepared, work with somebody who educates you, and do not worry about what it is that you're going to miss out on or regret. Lissette, any parting nuggets that you'd share with our audience?
It's important to have a realtor that's also going to point out the negative. You don't just want someone that's telling you, yes, it's beautiful. Yes, it's nice. Yes, you're going to love it. You want someone to also point out things that maybe you're not seeing or you may not think may
Yep.
impact you in the future. And then whether you're willing to deal with it or not, but having someone knowing that they experience this, they've had buyers that experience it and pointing these things out is extremely beneficial.
That's an awesome point, and what a great way to end this. I appreciate that. Guys, thank you so much for joining us this beautiful Monday. I hope you have a phenomenal week. And if you've got any ideas that you'd like to see in future videos, let us know, and we'll certainly get that done for you. Have an amazing day.
Have a good one, guys.